Good morning, Dr. Brand Holsabus here, chiropractor, coming at you here from the office for another edition of Ask the Chiropractor. So today's episode of Ask the Chiropractor, this is a question we get told a lot over the telephone. Hey, I want to come on in. I have a pinched nerve. Do you guys help with pinched nerves? And then what is a pinched nerve? We get asked that question a lot too. First of all, let's talk about what a pinched nerve is before we talk about how we help it. A pinched nerve does not exist, really. If a nerve was severely pinched, let's say it's the nerves going down your arm or pinched, your arm wouldn't work at all. It would just be hanging there. You'd have what they call paralysis. So a pinched nerve is a very, very generic diagnosis to something going on. Basically, what's happened is the disc gets a lot of press. The disc gets a lot of everyone talks about, oh, you must have a slip disc or you must have a disc bulge. Well, there's another side of that, and that's called the facet joint. And the facet joint is, if you look at the back of a spine, there are two little, very small, about the size of size of a dime joints, and those are called your facet joints. And in the cervical spine, they sit horizontal to hold the weight of the head. In the thoracic spine, they kind of like stand straight up and down, so like facing each other. And that's why you can't really twist that much in that part of your spine. That's where your ribs are. Then your lower back too, they also sit the same kind of, instead of going flat like they do in the thoracic middle back, they go to face each other more in the lower back. That's where you can't bend and twist. When these joints get inflamed and swollen, a lot of inflammation shows up and it takes up a lot of space. And then there's a stress response when these joints are swollen. And what happens is you'll lean away from these swollen joints. And when you lean away from these swollen joints, your disc will, if you put a foot in a balloon, the balloon will bulge. If you take a facet joint and make it all swollen, you'll lean away from it. You're like putting a foot on the balloon to make it swell up. That's what the disc does. So the disc will swell up or bulge out, usually because of one of these two facet joints. So if the facet joint on the left is swollen, the disc will bulge to the right because you'll lean away from there. That's what we see a lot. Now, when this all happens, there's all kinds of chemicals that get dumped off onto the nerve or wherever the nerve goes. And this is what they generically call a pinched nerve. The nerve itself probably isn't functioning to its fullest capabilities, excuse me. So what we see is that we have to check your reflexes are probably weaker if we did a bunch of skin tests to see how you felt, different sensations on your skin when that nerve goes. You see there would be changes there. So there's definitely a nerve loss. There's also a lot of times a loss in strength. Let's just keep talking about the arm. There might be a loss of one of your muscle groups in your arm because this nerve is under stress. But again, if it was totally pinched, you wouldn't be able to move it at all. So a pinched nerve is kind of a generic diagnosis. So that's kind of what a pinched nerve is. Chiropractic, a lot of times we just call it a subluxation. So all you do is whenever there's a misalignment, there's stress, there's chemicals that get dumped. These chemicals jump on that nerve, and wherever that nerve goes, the stress goes with it. As chiropractors, we go in there, we do a chiropractic adjustment. We take the stress off the nerve, off the joint, off the nerve. Then wherever that nerve goes, that body part then returns, starts to feel better. That's what we do. So can we help a pinched nerve? Absolutely. Absolutely can. How do we find them? Well, we usually do a quick range of motion test. We see where you're moving, not moving. We will kind of look at your body when you lay on the table. We'll see if you have a high shoulder or a low shoulder. We'll see if one's going backwards or one's going forwards. We'll look to see if your feet are level or straight. We'll look to see how your hips lay on the table when you lay down. These are all huge clues to tell us what's going on with your health and your spine. And then what we do is a lot of times we'll almost always take x-rays of you too in order to find the spot that is small and inflamed. We'll go in there and we'll adjust those. So that's what a pinched nerve is. And how does a pinched nerve feel? Well, it usually feels like if I turn a certain way, oh, that hurts really bad. Or this, if I go like this, turn my head to the left or right, or bend it left or right, you get that shooting pain in your arm or in the muscle belly up here. A lot of times I describe it as somebody taking a knuckle and trying to dig from the inside out, trying to get out. It feels like it's gnawing, dull pain. These are all things that people refer to as a pinched nerve. Now, in the lower back, people will call it a pinched nerve. Usually they just go right to it and call it sciatica anymore. But sciatica basically is the irritation of the sciatic nerve, which is what a pinched nerve is, the irritation of that nerve. So, some would call sciatica a pinched nerve of the lower back. But basically the same thing is going on down there. You'll find that you have a rotated pelvis and that the lower back is counter twisted. And then the nerves coming out of there, they all get together from your L3, 4, 5, and S1. They all get together. they form one big nerve. It's about the size of your thumb, and it travels behind your gluteus muscles. I think we all know what those are, your rear end, and then down the back side of your leg to your knee, and everything knee down innervates there. So people have problems if they feel stuff going down their leg. They say, I got a pinched sciatic nerve, this and that. So it's all the same thing. So if you know someone that has what they call a pinched nerve, tell them to go see the chiropractor. We definitely help with those cases. Another thing we want to make sure you tell people to go see a chiropractor for is the fact that previously these were treated with pain medication. They give you pain meds to help you get through this, so muscle relaxers. I'm not a big fan of muscle relaxers for these because it's the inflammation that's causing a lot of the problem. You see, every time those little joints swell and they hit each other, they cause more inflammation. And they give you muscle relaxers to try to calm the muscles down that are pulling on these. And the muscle relaxers in return lower your defenses. And when you lower your defenses, you tend to whack these joints more and you tend to create more inflammation. So I'm a big fan of anti-inflammation for these. I've said it before, I'll say 1,000 times, ice is the best anti-inflammatory they make. Just put an ice pack on those goes a long, long way. So icing these down is really, really important. Stretching them can help out too, but for the most part, if it's inflamed and swollen, we don't want to introduce more forces and more stress to the area. So stretching them isn't always a good idea. A lot of times it's trying to figure out how to open the joint up by laying in a certain way in traction. I know for your lower back, we'll have you lay down on your back and bring your knees up and try to put some stuff underneath your knees. We'll teach you how to traction that out with the ice. And then for your neck, there's all kinds of little tricks you can use to help traction out your neck when this is going on too. Little things you can do at home. I know like a pool noodle, like those things that kids use in swimming pools. Those are very, very helpful. But there's ways to lay down on these devices and lay in certain positions with the ice pack and open these up. Your chiropractor will go over these with you when you see them in order to help you at home too with this, what they call pinched nerve. So that's kind of a pinched nerve in a nutshell. There's some things you have to do at home to try to open it up and maybe like change your posture, take some of the stress off of it. There's things the chiropractor does with his chiropractic adjustments. And then, just try to have to keep irritating it. And again, I'm not a big fan of the muscle relaxers for this. I'm also not a big fan of the pain meds. Kind of surprising, it's 2022. And in 2020, basically about 2019, 2018, we realized that there was an opiate epidemic going on in this country. Too many people taking pain pills to treat their aches and pains, and they're getting addicted to it. And then when they get addicted to it, the doctor cuts them off the pain meds, so they can't get the pain meds from the doctor anymore, and they can't go to the hospitals anymore. We got better systems to check them. So then they hit the streets and they get the illegal drugs because unfortunately the addiction doesn't go away. And I was very sad, very, very sad to hear that the opiate deaths in this country went up 30% last year, knowing everything that we know about it. So if you know somebody with a pinched nerve, the pinched nerve can be very, very debilitating. Make sure you get them to a chiropractor, because as chiropractors, we don't give out pain meds. We just teach you how to, like I said, we teach you how to stretch it, we teach you how to ice it, and we take care of the problem that exists. Pain meds cover things up. There's a time and place for them, don't get me wrong. When I had my shoulder surgery, I was really glad they made them, but a pinched nerve there's other options for a pinched nerve. There's not other options for a shoulder surgery, right? So if you know somebody with those situations, make sure you get them to a chiropractor. It's kind of crazy to think that since into a chiropractor, you could be stopping an opiate overdose. And 5 years down the road, I know it's kind of a stretch to say that chiropractors stop opiate overdose, but chiropractors sure as heck don't start opiate overdoses, that's for sure. So if you know someone having this ache or pain, make sure you talk to a chiropractor about it. And remember, I started this segment to ask a chiropractor because I feel that a lot of times when you see news on chiropractors or information on chiropractors, it always tells you to go check with your family doctor first. This has always annoyed me because here where I live down the road from me, there's a medical school where they teach medical doctors. It's a great school, but they don't teach me anything about what I do. So I'm always confused that when someone says before you go see a chiropractor, check with your family doctor first. I have found that majority of family doctors I work with have no idea what I do or why I do it. As most of you know, I work with these guys right here, the Rockford Ice Hogs, the Protein. We have family doctors there. We have ER doctors, orthopedic doctors. And I, for the most part, have had to educate those guys 100% on what chiropractors do and don't do. So if you have a question for a chiropractor, ask a chiropractor. You have a question for a dentist, ask a dentist. Go ahead and leave a comment below if you have a question for me, and I'll get back to you, and I'll try to answer the best I can. I often reference the ICA, the International Chiropractic Association. That's our national association. And I also a lot of times reference back to Palmer College. That's the school we all went to Palmer College. You got our Palmer Pride right here. We all went to Palmer College of Chiropractic School in Davenport, Iowa here. So if you have a question and you want to ask the chiropractor, you want to take it one level up, ask the National Association, or go ahead and ask the college themselves. Other than that, make it a great day, and I hope to see some questions from you, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.